Thank you very much, Adrian, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cardiff for this session, and it's very good to have the opportunity to tell you something about the Low Carbon Research Institute, and I hope to give you some idea of the range of projects that we're engaging in and some of the opportunities that you may have to engage with our work and to help us, and I hope you, to take it forward. So, our purpose is to unite and promote the diverse range of energy research in Wales to help deliver a low-carbon future. And we have essentially at the moment 6 partners, but we're not exclusive and we're looking to expand our partnerships. So Cardiff is the lead partner, but we also partner with Aberystwyth, Bangor, Glamorgan, Glyndŵr and Swansea. The background to all of this, as I don't really need to tell any of you, is the UK and EU energy and climate policy developments over the last decade or so, the Welsh Assembly Government's targets, which Adrian's already referred to, and the fact that the Welsh Assembly Government has a unique legal duty to promote sustainable development. And of course, most recently, in March, we had the Energy Policy Statement, which set new ambitions and also names the Low Carbon Research Institute as one of the means whereby policy will be informed and taken forward. Let me just remind you of things, some of which you already know, but in the UK context, certainly we could go back a long way, but the Climate Change Act has been very important because it set the 80% carbon emissions reduction by 2050 into law, and those legal obligations are unusual internationally. And it set an obligation on the government to set 5-yearly carbon budgets on the recommendation from the Committee on Climate Change. Those budgets have now been set, as you can see. They have depended on how far agreements were, or in this case were not particularly reached at Copenhagen. And in 2009, we had the UK government's Low Carbon Transition Plan, which said that the low carbon transition was one of the defining issues of the 21st century. And there's a plan to meet the unilateral 34% reduction goal for 2020, 40% of electricity from low carbon sources by 2020, 30% from renewables, and a variety of other measures. Most recently, of course, last week, we had the new government coalition agreements, and amongst other things, what they said in the expressed desire by both the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats to build a low-carbon and eco-friendly economy, that they did intend to establish a smart grid and roll out smart meters, fully establish feed-in tariff systems in electricity and maintain banded ROCs, renewable obligation certificates, promote a huge increase in energy from waste through anaerobic digestion, create a green investment bank, provide home energy improvements funded from savings on people's energy bills, measures to encourage marine energy, important in the Welsh context because we have such good marine resources, setting an emissions performance standard and stopping coal-fired power stations the build of new coal-fired power stations if they have insufficient CCS, but of course we don't yet know what the standard is going to be. Setting a floor price for carbon, an important aspect of this, and attempt to persuade the EU to fully auction the emissions trading system permits. Mandating a national recharging network for electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles, an important development, and continue proposed public sector investment in carbon capture and storage for 4 coal-fired power stations. Reduce central government carbon emissions by 10% within 12 months. And there's a statement on nuclear, and I won't go into that in detail because there is detail there. This is to be followed by a final coalition agreement, which will or will not, as the case may be, reinforce and refine various parts of this statement. But it is an important background to what is going to go forward. The Welsh Assembly Government's Energy Policy Statement in March 2010, and this doesn't do it proper justice, but it did set out aims to maximise energy savings and energy efficiency, move to resilient low-carbon energy production with indigenous renewables on both a centralised and a localised basis, to ensure the transition maximises the economic and social renewal opportunities, and based on natural advantages in the resources that we have, such as wind and marine renewable resources, the aim is to renewably generate up to twice as much electricity annually by 2025 as we use today, and by 2050 be in a position where almost all of our local energy needs, including heat, power and transport, can be met by low-carbon electricity. And these are not insubstantial aims, as I think you'll agree. So that's the background to the situation in which we all find ourselves, but also it's the background in which the Low Carbon Research Institute finds itself. So we were set up in April 2008 with initial seed funding from the Higher Education Funding Council of Wales. And what we aim to do is to create a virtual organisation that will change the energy research landscape in Wales and develop a body that unites the diverse, and it is a very rich and diverse range of energy expertise across the Principality, coordinate research, technology development, demonstration and transfer. And I think it's important to note that because a lot of university research institutes are really very concerned with research and not necessarily so concerned with development and demonstration and the ultimate commercialization of the technologies and practices which are developed. But we do aim to look right the way along the innovation chain and to assist in appropriate parts of that. And we aim to enable or help WAG to deliver its energy policy while promoting Wales as an international showcase for sustainable low-carbon energy technology. And our project areas include these: low-carbon buildings, marine and tidal flow energy, large-scale power generation, photovoltaic energy systems, bioenergy, hydrogen, and education and training in the energy sector. So our funding at the moment is largely like this: 5 million from the Higher Education Funding Council for Wales, the 34 million which includes matched funding, which Adrian referred to, which we recently received as part of the EU structural funds. This is the Welsh European Funding Office Convergence Energy Programme, which will run for the next 6 years from 2010, with a great deal of our effort actually being devoted in the first 3 years. And we also have research funding of approximately 10 million from a range of other sources, from the research councils, from industrial energy support and so on. So we have quite a rich portfolio of research. What I'm going to do this evening from now on really is to tell you about the Convergence Industrial Energy Research Programme, because that I think is probably closest to the interests of many of the people in the room, and indeed one of the reasons why we hope that you've come here. So we secured this funding in late 2009. We had a high-level review panel which reviewed the projects which were submitted into this, because quite clearly and reasonably one would not expect the Welsh European Funding Office to give us money without actually knowing exactly what we propose to do with it. So we have set out projects in areas that include marine energy, hydrogen, large-scale power generation, photovoltaics, work in the low-carbon built environment, scenario modelling, which will look at the energy transition in Wales over the next decades, and a cross-cutting theme on environmental sustainability and equal opportunities. We are also currently in the process of going to tender on an energy sector training programme, a 2 million training programme, which will provide training in key areas of the energy supply chain.